Welcome back to ASBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted, as always, to be joined by Greg. Greg, we've just watched the weigh-in for the IBF World Welterweight title fight in Liverpool, the Echo Arena, on Saturday night. Sky Sports boxer it is, of course. Natasha Jonas defending her IBF strap against Mikaela Mayer. Mayer coming up a few weight divisions. Has, I think, from about two or three from the Baumgartner fight, she's come up, 3 or 4 weight divisions almost. Natasha Jonas obviously been through the weights too. Actually, come back down a couple of fights ago. But yeah, it's fight night tomorrow night. Just your kind of initial thoughts on the weigh-in that we've just watched there, Greg.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for speaking with me, Paul. It was an intriguing weigh-in because I thought both girls looked equally confident. I didn't think that the height difference was as much as it's being made out to be, and I thought both girls looked really good at the weight, Maya included. She looks a little bit more filled out than she probably did against Alicia Baumgartner, but if you're going up in weight, that's something that's going to happen. So, yeah, I think it was a very business-like weigh-in.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Business-like is definitely the good term to use there. I think for me, it's telling who's fought more at this weight. I think with Natasha Jonas, you can tell that she's made the weight rather comfortably. But for me, I think her body looks like, yeah, we've been sitting around this weight for longer. Whereas Meyer, for me, again, echo what you've said. I do think that she's probably put the weight on well. She was realistically, when she was fighting down in those lighter weights at lightweight and all that, she was very, very tall for the weight, so it must have been very difficult for her to make those weights. But I think you can tell this is her first fight, up at this high weight. I think that, yeah, I think she has filled out obviously. But for me, I think if you're comparing the two, Jonas is maybe filled out slightly better. I don't know if you would agree with that, but yeah, funny that you said also there. One thing I just want to pick up on what you said. You mentioned the height difference. I had in my head, and just seeing the press conference the other day and all of the build up and stuff. I had in my head that, yeah, well, Mikaela Mayer is going to be 3, 4 inches taller than Natasha Jonas, but standing side by side there, eye to eye, there's maybe only an inch, two in it maximum. So yeah, was that a kind of a surprise to you?
It was a bit of a surprise, Paul, because I had to think about the way that I would want Natasha Jonas to fight tomorrow night to win the fight. It slightly changed for me, knowing that the height difference isn't that much. So for me, it is a bit of a factor because if someone's tall and rangy, you really need to think about how you try and work inside someone like that. And the fact that there's not that much of a difference now, there's maybe other tactics that you can play with that I wouldn't have thought of before.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. One thing I want to kind of pick up on, from the way in as well is, well, I suppose you mentioned tactics there as well, and we'll come on to a final prediction as we always do at the end of the video. But if you're Natasha Jonas, how do you fight this fight, knowing that this is Mikaela Mayer's first fight up at the weight? Do you try and attack the body? What way do you do? Do you set a frenetic pace early on? How do you go about it if you're Natasha Jonas?
I think she needs to adopt a bit of an old amateur style in this fight. I think she needs to bounce in and out of range and throw bursts of 2 or 3 shots. And as the fight goes on, stay inside then with Mikaela Mayer. But I think it's very important to not be in range of Mayer's jab early on. So I think she needs to judge coming in and out of distance, the combination shots. Towards the end of the fight, stay in the pocket, try and do a bit of hurting to the body. That's probably the way that I would look at it if I was Team Jonas.
Yeah, very interesting, mate. Very interesting. Love your analysis as always. But now for suppose same question, but for Mikaela Mayer. Well, a couple of questions here really. One, do you think that she's always been a tidy boxer, Mayer, and has always had the reach and height advantage over her opponents. Will do again for this fight, but not as substantial as we first maybe thought. She's always been quite bouncy on her toes, in and out. Do you think that she'll still adopt that style, even with the extra weight? Or do you perhaps think we could maybe see a different game plan from Mikaela Mayer here?
I think she needs a different game plan, Paul. I think she needs to dominate the centre of the ring and try and use her jab. Um, she could catch Jonas coming in, completely the opposite to the game plan that I've said there for Jonas. She could catch her coming in, and I think that's something that she needs to try and do. One thing she can't do for me is let Natasha Jonas back her up early. She has to grab that centre of the ring and really impose a jab. I think she can do that and she can get 2 or 3 rounds up early tomorrow night. It could be hard for Jonas to come back from.
Yeah, very interesting, mate. Kind of echoing the sentiments you've said there. I think obviously early on, the thing is if you lose a couple of early rounds, you can always come back because you've got, well, in this case, say you lose it for three, you've still got 7 rounds to go. But I completely agree with in the sense that I think after maybe let's say 3 or 4 rounds will give us a massive insight into who's going to win this fight just from the styles and how the first few rounds have gone. If it's if like you've said about the game plans, if Meyer will use the jab well and is a few
Yeah,
rounds up, I could see it being a frustrating and long night, maybe for Natasha Jonas. But then similarly, again, like you said, I think it all depends on how Mikaela Meyer takes this extra weight. What will her gas tank be like? That's another question for me.
yeah,
I know we always talk about going through the weights, and she still had to do a cut, obviously. But you're talking here that she's fighting a stone really above than she has done her whole career. That's quite a lot,
yeah,
and that's 3 or 4 weight divisions. So
yeah.
yeah, it's intriguing for me in that sense. We'll come on to final predictions after this one, but one more question, Greg. Um, Without giving your final prediction away, because we'll do that in a second, has the weigh-in changed your mind at all as to who wins tomorrow night?
It's made me a little slightly more confident. That's all I would say, just very slightly, because I do still think it is a very, very tight 50-50 fight.
I'm the same, mate. Yeah, I for one, I agree with you. I think I had in my head who I think's going to win this fight, and I still do think she will win the fight, but I'm maybe not as confident as I first was potentially. So yeah, it is a 50-50 match. It's a good fight. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to it. But I suppose we've kind of beat around the bush. We may as well get on to it now, mate. What is your final prediction for Natasha Jonas and Mikaela Mayer? Who will lift the IBF World Welterweight title from the end of the fight?
Do you know something, Paul? Without giving a name straight away, the person that wins this fight tomorrow night is the one that starts quickest. The one that wins the first 2 and 3 rounds, they're going to win the fight. I think I'm slightly just edging with Natasha Jonas. I'm not overly confident, but I do think looking at the height now, looking at the weight, both girls look confident. I just think that the momentum is with Natasha Jonas. I think she might win a tight points decision.
Very interesting, mate. Very interesting. I am actually going the other way. I think Michaela Mayer will win. I said with Elliot Grigg when the two of us did the preview show. I do think that I favour her and to win the fight. I think she could win it on points, obviously. But I'm not as confident now looking at the weigh-in. I still am backing her to win it. I think it's destined to go 12 for me. But I think if you look at the Baumgartner fight, that was really close. A lot of people actually had Meyer winning that.
Yeah,
I don't know, something about her just tells me that like, yeah, she's a bit heavier, and it depends on how she carries the weight. But I have a feeling she'll carry it well enough, and we'll get the job done and frustrate Natasha Jonas, provided we get fair scorecards, because obviously it is in Liverpool. But yeah, fingers crossed. We're not worrying about that. But we've gone opposite ways, Greg. I really enjoy doing these videos with yourself always, as always. But yeah, guys, let us know in the comments what you think. Is Greg? Are you favouring what Greg said? Are you going with Natasha Jonas, or are you going with Michaela Mayer to, goes kind of uh rain on the Natasha Jonas parade in Liverpool? Guys, thanks very much for watching. Greg, thanks very much as always for doing these videos with me, mate. And I'll speak to you again soon.
thanks, Paul.